And it's the daily space weather, folks. Looking at the sun at 171 angstroms. Small active region growing, actually two of them growing in the south, as well as some filaments in the north. There are the plasma filaments up north, and they're significant. Nothing to worry about, folks. No coronal mass ejections headed Earth's way. And there you see that active region there. This is just today's views here, about 9.5 hours. Here's a close-up of that active region there, showing you basically the whole life cycle of that zone. It's cycle 25 in nature. And hey, it'll never be now again. Welcome to the neo-renaissance of cosmology and indeed physics. Here's a 304 angstroms view. And you see those plasma filaments that have been up there for several days now in the northwest. It's a pretty new one there in the northeast. And the majority of those filaments is on the other side of the sun, most likely. We've also did a close-up of that area. And no, this was not designed as a music video. Anyway, there's a great close-up for you. And we made that one extra lengthy. And you see some great indications of the way the plasma has a tendency to form into a tree-like structure here in terms of the ionized helium. And let's look at some more data here. X-ray flux has been moving around a little bit, and the sun is not dormant. Although the 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still quite low, only at 71 solar flux units. KP's dropped back down to 3, never reached 5 yesterday, but 2 periods of geomagnetic unrest. Current solar wind speed 628, so we see a continued accelerated solar wind there by that coronal hole. Very low solar wind density, 2.12 protons. Phi angle at 248 degrees. And there's the data from ACE looking corroborative. That telltale signal of a coronal hole wind stream when the density suddenly drops and the velocity continues to rise. So this is going to continue to ramp down over the next 24 hours, folks. Next, we'll look at the geospace magnetosphere movie, which has calmed down considerably also compared to yesterday. We're only going to look at the pressure, as the velocity and density ones are fairly uneventful. Next, we'll look at the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. And like the magnetosphere movies here, this is also 4 hours of data. And we still see some continued geospace changes in the B field. And that's why we're showing you the data. That's 4 hours, courtesy University of Michigan. We'll let it play through a second time, as there's all kinds of pulses coming out of the Central Pacific Ocean, as well as out of the North Canadian Pole, the North Siberian Pole, and the South Pole, which, by the way, is creeping up toward southwestern Australia, if you weren't aware. It's a geomagnetic excursion. And it's a crazy time to be alive in terms of science, as well as geophysical behavior. Next, we're going to look at the geoelectric field. And this is experimental data, folks, but this is the induction hazard for the U.S. power grid. and we're looking at megavolts per kilometer here. So this is nothing major here, but I just wanted to include this as we always leave this below the video. Here we're looking at not magnetic fields, but induction into the power grid itself. Next, we'll look at the electron flux. And this is Solon.info's data set. Relativistic electrons still only at moderate levels, finally coming up off the floor after that last coronal hole wind stream density spike. So we still see the increased solar wind velocity, but the densities drop down, and there you see the electrons popping back up. Not of a particular surprise. And there's the latest data on the both scales there, the greater than or equal to 2 as well as greater than or equal to 0.8 mega electron volts. Next, the 6 hours of ionosphere movie. And I would note some anomalous looking data there on meridional lines, especially on the prime meridian. Looks like some measurement errors there. Or possibly just a lack of resolution. But anyway, there's 6 hours of the ionosphere, and this is from Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Looking fairly normal, actually. And there's the current situation at 10:45 UT. Here are the continued spikes in the GOES magnetometer that we forecasted here as the plasma environment is going to smooth out a little bit over the next day. And here's the data that'll make you believe what I've just said. Barring some new activity on the sun, we should see a little bit more smoother GOES magnetometer. And yes, I am able to predict the magnetic environment a little bit here if I use the correct data sets. So this is the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And it's as if you're looking at the sun from above, and you're looking at the polarity of the current sheet, the heliospheric current sheet, which is mainly made of hydrogen nuclei, aka protons. And the south pole charged ones here are showing up in red. That data 1 hour and 37 minutes old. Keep in mind, folks, the magnetic environment can change with absolutely no warning. But based on this, it's looking like it's going to smooth out a little bit. Let's talk about earthquakes, such as this one, directly under the Mauna Loa caldera. As Mauna Loa has reappeared on the volcano watch list, we'll get to it in a moment. Let me just refresh the USGS page here. As we've seen some quakes come in, as I did show prep, and as we viewed our cosmology segment, we're just going to scroll up here. We're going to note things like deep earthquakes or earthquakes in an odd place. So there's what's going on now, that's looking at the map. And we did see a 6+ magnitude quake kick off at the Philippines. Hopefully that didn't cause too much destruction. Shout out to Philippines. Leave a comment if you've got content about that earthquake. Did you see wine glasses shaking like what happened in Miami when a quake happened near Jamaica? Leave a comment. And we're just scrolling up the list here. I apologize for the delay. That is an explosion, folks. That's a man-made earthquake due to things like mining. And I apologize if I miss any earthquakes, folks. Geology is not really my specialty. Now here's the quake that we were showing you at the beginning of the section. And note the depth of that quake. It's at 1,800 meters above sea level. So again, that's the one that occurred right underneath the Mauna Loa caldera. Only a 2.6 magnitude, but there is ground swelling going on there at Mauna Loa, as well as at Kilauea. So Kilauea is pulsating. The ground is breathing a little bit at Hawaii. We also see one 500 meters above sea level. Here's a very deep quake at the Northern Mariana Islands, close to the deepest part of the entire ocean there. And that's a deep quake too, 576 kilometers at a 4.9 magnitude. And Vanuatu, coming in as we did show prep at a 4.6 magnitude and 627 kilometers depth. That's a very deep quake, folks. Next, we're going to look at windy.com's weather maps here. This is the GFS forecast for pressure. And we'll just let that advance. Until approximately 12 o'clock UT tomorrow. Shout out to Eugene Bagashov. We'll be doing a video with Eugene tomorrow about unified theory of physics. And there's where we expect pressure to be at 12 Zulu, otherwise known as universal time, or perhaps Greenwich Mean Time. And hey, check it out, I'm back. Here on February 7th, doing the volcano rundown mount, also possible activity there. Krakatoa, one of the volcanoes that's killed people in the past 2 years. Eruption reported there. Semeru, 14,000 foot ash plume there. Coronal, continuous emissions. By the way, that image on the left there is what the lava flow from the 1984 eruption of Mauna Loa looked like. And we've been covering Mauna Loan earthquakes regularly on the channel for weeks. Here's a quote. Gas concentrations at the sulfur cone monitoring site on the southwest rift zone remain stable, and the fumarole temperatures have not changed significantly. However, there does appear to be changes to the magma supply happening, so that's what those magmatic quakes are, folks. Also, seismicity indicating Kilauea is expanding and contracting over the past month. Possibility of it erupting. Shishaldin, reported seismicity there, as well as some eruptions. Popocatépetl has dispersed. Fuego, ongoing emissions there as it explodes, 15,000 foot ash plume. Nevado del Ruiz has dispersed. Sabancaya, intermittent emissions there. Sangay exploding, flight level 19,000. Revenador exploding, flight level 15,000. And Nevados de Chilean producing white gas plumes to an altitude of 13,490 feet. Who knows what gases are coming out of it? If you think volcanoes cause global warming, think again. Have you headed to smashomash.com/forum? We have a vast repository of coronavirus information, and we've updated it once again today with various images from Reuters graphics. So if you'd like to check that out, do it via our site, as it'll still access Reuters, and Reuters will still get the photo credits. So while we've copied and pasted, and by the way, we didn't forget about the 3C405 t-shirts, Smash Team. And a sad story about the doctor who warned about the virus in the first place has died of coronavirus. Lu Wenliang did not make it. Here are the stats from Johns Hopkins, and this is real time. We see the Chinese cases continuing to rise as they are underreported, so don't be surprised when these rise suddenly a lot. Keep in mind, your case can only be reported when you are confirmed. So we're up to 638 total deaths at this time, 31,515 cases, and it's 5:58 a.m. right now on the east coast of the U.S. Let's go to lightning. If you think lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, think again. Don't assume that a spot lightning struck is now safe, as that is a very, very foolish thing to do. And if you understand the way the Earth's ley lines and magnetosphere works, you would not even wonder why I've said it. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar map. And I am hating the weather above my head right now, as we've had a soggy, foggy, putrid mess in what's supposed to be the coldest part of winter. But we don't see snow. We see a bunch of crappy rain and fog instead. Please leave a comment if you think human carbon dioxide emissions have caused it to be so warm this winter. And here's the U.S. water vapor map. And fortunately, dry air is going to push this crap out of here. It's going to get much colder. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Let's look at this convergence zone over northern Louisiana, as there are some serious systems coming together. And today's weather pornography segment brought to you by smAshomash.org and the Smash team at Massive Personal Expense and Liability. Anyway, this is kind of the zone where the cold air meets the warm, folks. And right around this region is the main mix. Let's move on to show you this amazing European and African water vapor map. Actually, I don't like it that much, but hey, I know we've got some Euro viewers. And we talked to lots of Euro gamers. I also know lots of people in South Africa, and I even know a guy in Cyprus. Anyway, there's those water vapor maps. And I've left the image small here so you can see that I've got the correct dates. Next, Null School, looking at the jet streams. There's the Western world. There's the Eastern world. Some interesting bends happening there over places like the Middle East. And once again, thanks to the Smash team for tuning in. Please leave a comment. Please share on your social media, etc. We've practically reached 1,500 subscribers. Oh my gosh, perish the thought. Stay tuned for bonus features. Did you watch today's cosmology segment? Are you aware that things like galactic nuclei don't really behave like vacuums, but they behave like fountains? I don't know. Did you just watch? There'll be links to the video where I say this. And some of the material is likely raining back down into the system. Now let's consider the idea that stars and indeed galaxies behave like fountains instead of like vacuums. Were you aware that there were repulsive as well as attractive forces in the universe, folks? Are you on alt social media like minds.com? We've been getting active over there, as there seems to be some people actually promoting the platform. And so we've got all kinds of material, and I would never think about enrolling in college. What about you? Also, we're also on BitChute, and no, we will not be splicing the video or having outtakes, as we basically don't edit these videos whatsoever to get them out as quickly as possible to our loyal viewers. Check us out on BitChute if you haven't. There is now exclusive content over there. If you weren't aware, check it out. Also, consider becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/smashomash. Thanks to our associate as well as our assistant producers. And today's final bonus feature comes in the form of the 94 angstroms 48-hour video here of the local yellow dwarf, otherwise known as Sol, or perhaps the Sun. And indeed it has many names in many religions. Please leave a comment if you think the Sun's conscious. Perhaps we'll do a Messages for the Sun segment. If you think the Sun is able to read your mind, please leave a comment in the form of demonically possessing another viewer, reading their mind, and then writing their mind and making them leave a comment for you. Small active region rising there on the northwest, looking pretty weak, but some new activity kicking off on the southwest. Anyway, we're out. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive, and since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.